with the keys and the ribbon as a character witness to my ups and my downs. Was that you checking in with the cats in the kitchen, watching starlings from the window while you were making the rounds?
Click. Here come Jerry and Joel. This was me and my friend. I want to be present, but I'm only here half the time. When I was a kid, I remember playing with the tape recorder. My dad had all these cassettes, all these dubbed albums, you know. Abbey Road that his friend had taped for him, handwritten on the side, Abbey Road, so it was this cassette collection. And so he'd put that cassette in the player and listen. I remember, and I don't know if we'd be able to find the cassette, it's probably long gone now, but it'd be like, you know, she came in through the bathroom window, click, here come Jerry and Joel. This was me and my friend. Jerry broke his leg at one point. He tried to jump over the hedge just up the street from our house. Jerry's dad came down wearing a towel around, and Jerry's howling. It was really, so that's a memory from Lunenburg. The sound of tape, the way in which you can interject yourself onto tape as a medium, the distortion in which the microphone picks up your voice, and the fact that it's this record of a time and a place and a sound. It operates in relation to both the listener and to itself. If you record on a tape over and over and over again, it gets duller and duller.
High summer, winding up the full moon, arrows, broken arrows, flying sideways down the hall.
There's this blurriness that happens when you come up against the edge of it, and it means like, okay, I know I can't get through this, but now I'm swimming in distortion, and that has an implication, a sonic color and a feeling that it gives you, and a lot of this is about feeling.
Well, you know, that's scrappy, but on the record version, when we transferred it, it came back a little bit. I was like, oh wait, when I went to play along with it, it was an F sharp. I was like, well, I'm sure that song's an F. We'd actually had the pitch control up a little bit too much, and so the whole recording is playing fast on the album version.
High summer,
I sound younger.
Blind spots, crane my neck, look back. Saw dots connecting broken track. Hearts down the alley, start rallying real love. Shall we show it? We reaped it, we ripped it, so now we sow it. Eyes were open, but can't be sure. Exactly what I was looking for other than myself. Still some days, I hate to say, I just have eyes to look away. Words are such an interesting and mysterious technology, you know, tool, in the same way analog technology is a tool or a microphone. They all have these limits. Language is one of them, right? The limits of language. Words still weaving. I'm hemmed in by them now. Some days he says, they're all I've got. Should I say this out loud? But then there's you, outside this high definition, the real 2020
vision of beauty.
Not just on this channel, but the whole shebang. You know, there's something about that. It's just a train of thought, but it spoke to what I was coming up. I was trying to say something about somebody, about Rebecca. You know, or I got to Rebecca. I was trying to say something, and then I realized I got to where I wanted to go.
There's a river running through every memory with you, to the ocean from the mountain.
My wife Rebecca, who did the artwork for the latest record and has done the art on a lot of my records, she's a really important person in my life, and her art has this power to it that informs my songwriting. I can hear her voice in my ear.
In your rayon dress, learning all your curves, turning all the boys into hummingbirds.
How was that show last night? Well, he rocked and he swiveled. It was pretty good. Watch out. I found this green chair first. My friend John Epworth told me I should bring an armchair on the road, because I said, I'm going to bring these windows to show some images. Oh, speaking of the windows, my friend Andy built these. I said, I don't want it to look like a PowerPoint presentation. So make them square, make them 5 by 5. We can fit that in the trailer. I found the curtains down in the valley on Etsy, and went down to the valley to get them. And then, but if the images look slightly different from one side to the other, they're pretty close, but they're slightly different thread counts in the bed sheets we stayed with.
Doors, windows, those are interesting things. I hauled around the windows on the tour so that I could share images, share personal stories. Then I'd go to the archives on tour and I'd go, what can I share in the window tonight? Where am I? Oh, I'm in Saskatchewan. What photograph or memory do I have from Saskatchewan? I was telling a story on the tour about Dawson City Music Festival, and I showed a picture of Dallas Good from the Sadies, because Dallas is gone now, and we played up there with the Sadies. And then later that night, somebody came up to me and said, oh, you played the Dawson City Music Festival. I was there. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah. And then I remembered this piece of press, and I said, oh, thanks for reminding me of this. We'd flown home through Whitehorse, and I went, and we got off the plane in Whitehorse, flying back from Dawson. All the bands, the Sadies were on that flight with us too. Get off the plane. We're on the cover of the Whitehorse Daily Star. It says the Joel Plaskett Emergency headline, the Dawson City Music Festival. And it's a picture of us with the audience there. And then up at the top, there's a headline that said, Gunman robs gas bar.
Awesome response by RCMPC's Bobcat driving suspect. Like, coolest piece of press ever, you know? Unbelievable. So good. Love it.
With eyes closed in midair, I knew where we would meet. Your shoulders and arms bare, the king in Portland Street, hiding in plain sight above you in bright light. Hang tight, it's alright. This world can disappear. I loved you, I lost you, I held the door you walked through. This ghost ship from stern to bow, I sell flowers now. I sell flowers now.
When I was growing up in Lunenburg, it was at I was there till I was 12. And there was a school that I went to, the academy, and it was full of, it had taxidermy in these mahogany glass cabinets. And I think about that in relation to the studio, which was full of fur coats initially. This was a furrier's storage facility. And so there's something maybe about dead animals and the ghosts back there that are informing my life a little bit. And these old places that get kind of repurposed. I started my childhood home in Lunenburg as I did before. Instead of going to the spot in the yard where I buried coins as a kid, I walk across the street and head for the woods behind some houses. There was a spot in the yard where I remember going into the yard and digging a hole and putting a bag of coins in it and leaving it there for the winter, and it would freeze, the ground would freeze, and then when the ground was, when the spring would go, I'd go back and I'd dig up this money that I'd put there, you know? And that's a really strong memory for me. Like I really, really, really remember it. I remember this tree fort that we used to walk to in the woods. I get to the area where the fort was and see a string leading elsewhere. At some point, the string veers right, crosses a ditch, and heads into the woods. It wraps around a branch on a small, spindly pine tree and heads left. I notice a chain link fence running along beside me to my right. I follow the string until I get to a hole in the fence, at which point I leave the string and climb through the hole. I look back through the fence and the trees and see the highway I was walking on. Turning around, I see an abandoned airfield with a few old planes and a single-story administrative building across the field to the left. It's the size of one of those small rural post offices. When I think about that place and these memories, they start to show up like in a weird way that informs the songs. And it's not nostalgia. It's like I can kind of go there and then you just time travel. And the time traveling is part of what music's all about. I walk across the field and enter. There are 2 desks with telephones and dusty papers. I see a filing cabinet and roll out the bottom drawer. There are alphabetized files inside. I find my file and it's very thin. It's just a single sheet poking out the top of the file. It's a white piece of paper with a circular hole in it, 4 or 5 inches in diameter. I hold the paper to my face and look through the circle. It's as if I can perceive things differently. I see the space between objects and the force that draws them together or repels them. I think about the books in the shop and the space between them, my family, and this customer who keeps coming around and making everyone uncomfortable. They all make sense. There's a mirror in the office, and looking, I see myself in it, holding the paper in front of my face. The older Asian woman from my previous dreams is behind me slightly to my left and is looking at my reflection in the mirror. Our eyes connect and she reaches her right hand around my back and puts it on my right shoulder. I turn around to face her and lower the paper. She's still there. We don't speak, but she nods at me, and with this, I recognize that I can access this perception when I need to. I put the sheet back in the file, return it to the cabinet, and leave the building with her in it. I head back across the airfield to the hole in the fence and follow the string along the same path back home. I want to be present, but I'm only here half the time, you know, if I'm lucky. I feel that sometimes in conversation with people, I feel bad for them because I'm not fully present. I want to be like that. That's what you're supposed to aspire to. And like, I don't know, with meditation and stuff like that, but I'm just like, the time traveling aspect of this stuff is too strong. You know, it's a pull. I have to kind of actively fight against it now and then because it's seductive, you know, like writing songs and living in memory, or even just like somehow moving into the future, trying to find new songs, you know, and they hopscotch, right? It's hopscotching. That's you don't know where it's going to go. And this is the thing, this kind of interrelated chemistry. It's like the smear of the ceiling, like it's distortion, and it's all at once all the time. It's pretty cool, you know. On one of the most emotional experiences I ever had, on one of the hardest days I'd ever had in my life, I was so low. I'm not going to talk about that experience. I was so low. I turned on Netflix to get my mind off the way I was feeling. I turned on the TV to get my mind off how I was feeling, and I was watching that documentary. Is it called Jim and Me, where Jim Carrey's talking about Andy Kaufman, playing Andy Kaufman? And I'm watching it, and it was fascinating, you know, and it's all about him playing a character, right? And at the end, coming up on the end in the home stretch of the documentary, Jim Carrey's looking dead at camera, and he says, he's talking kind of metaphysically, right? And he goes, it's like you're born into a country somewhere. I'm not quoting this right. It's like you're born into a country somewhere, and someone says, your name is Joel. That's what he says. He's talking to me. He says Joel in the documentary. I kid you not. I got chills. I started to cry there and then. It was like I'd been watching this movie in this headspace, and Jim Carrey names me in that. And it was the weirdest synchronicity. The messenger is Jim Carrey talking about playing Andy Kaufman. So if you want to talk about like how everything's connected, that was it for me. That was like, I mean, I still get chills talking about it. Cut.
I got it now.
Wide-eyed, look in the sky high, wondering why I can't fly by this place in the sun, tracing the blue, chasing the one, up or below, let me go, Joe. Let me go, Joe, for a spell, to find my way to heaven, or wind my way through hell. Let me go, Joe. Let me go make my mistakes, the pedal to the metal, just to know that them's the brakes. Breaking news, making waves, making art, waking you up with a broken heart. That's alright, that's okay. It's all part of the show. It's the cinema, you know. So let me go, Joe. Let me go for a spell, to find my way to heaven, or wind my way through hell. Let me go, Joe. Let me go make something up. Let curiosity kill this cat, or fill his empty cup. Stepping out on a daydream, ain't got a doubt in the grand scheme. East to the west, 'cause the restless don't settle for rest. Now we sleep on the road, so let me go. Let me go to find my way to heaven, wind my way below, Joe. If I'm still here, pretend I'm gone, to find the silver lining, the horizon's rolling on shore. Before I forget how, I'll go nowhere for the encore, Joe. Let me go somewhere now. Rainy day, Janie, may I take the lazy way home and borrow your wheels, pretty please? It's coming down heavy now, I'm gonna get soaked to the bone, and you know how that feels in the breeze. I hear the sound of rolling thunder, see lightning on the line. This heavy cloud I am under, define and divine. Rainy day, Janie, it seems